Hello, my name is David. I'll be guiding you through this College Board test. Let's get started with Math Module 1. Math Module 1, question 1. What is the y-intercept of the graph shown? So right here we see a graph curving upwards, and the y-intercept is when it crosses the y-axis. So that occurs here at the 8. And the key thing is that it's going to be 0, 8. And for every y-intercept, the x value will always be 0. So we scroll down, and the answer is D. All right, let's go to the next one. Question number 2. Which expression is equivalent to 2x squared plus x minus 9 plus x squared plus 6x plus 1? So equivalent expression, we're playing the matching game. So 2x squared goes to x squared. So I'm going to put plus x squared below that, and plus 6x below that, and plus 1 below that. And we get 3x squared plus 7x minus 8. And that should give us D. Question number 3. Analysis collected data on the prices of a carton of grape tomatoes at 30 locations selected at random in Utah. The mean price of the carton of grape tomatoes in Utah was estimated to be 4.23. So that's also known as the sample mean, with the associated margin of error of 0.08. So generally speaking, when margin of error is given, you're going to do confidence intervals. So the confidence intervals is going to be the sample mean plus or minus the margin of error. So in this case, it's going to be 4.23 plus 0.08, and then 4.23 minus 0.08. All right, which of the following is a plausible value of the mean price? So any number between those two. So this is 4.15 and 4.31. So that sounds pretty good. Let's do less than. No, that would be outside the confidence interval. It's less than. Nope, that would be one-sided. And D is also the same thing, it would be one-sided. So the answer is A. Question number 4. Out of the 300 seeds that were planted, 8% sprouted. How many seeds were sprouted? So this is going to be following the poof technique. So percent, so 80 over 100 times the original amount. And that's equal to the final amount. So in this case, using my calculator, just using some mental math, the zeros cancel. And we get 80 times 3, which is going to be 240. And that is the correct answer. Question number 5. We have a linear function provided, and it also mentions linear function. D is a constant, so it's just a placeholder for a number. F of 7 is 24, which is the same thing as 7, 28. So we just plug that point in and solve for B. So 28 is equal to 4 times 7 plus B, and then B is equal to 0. And so the answer is A. Question number 6. Right triangles LMN and PQ are similar. So I don't have any triangles drawn, so I might draw 2 triangles. It says that it's right triangles, so I'm going to draw 2 right angles. L corresponds to P, M corresponds to Q. So then if I do, and then M is 53. So let's just say we had, I don't know, L here, and then M, and then N. So M must correspond to Q. So Q must go up here, and P must go down here. And that means R is over here. So if M is 53, then we know that N must be 37 because the angles in a triangle must add up to 180. The question asks, what's the angle Q? Well, since Q matches up with M, we have the answer right away, 53. So whenever you're working with similar triangles, the corresponding angles are congruent, but the sides are proportional. Question number 7. What is the equation line that passes through a point 0,5 and is parallel to the equation here? So parallel lines have the same slope. And then since this is y equals mx with b format, the slope is going to be the coefficient of x. So in this case, it's 7. Now I'm going to make a new line. So I'm going to use point slope form. So 7 times x minus 0 plus 5. And then I multiply it out. So we get y equals 7x plus 5, or the answer is B. Question number 8. Which of the following equations is the most appropriate linear model for the data shown? Well, in that case, I notice that it has a y-intercept of 10. So it can't be the negative 10 y-intercept. And so that eliminates A and C. I also could calculate the slope. I notice the slope is going downward. So the slope must be negative. So we can eliminate all the answers with a positive slope, which leaves us only one correct answer, B. Question number 9. A model predicts the population of Bergen was 15,000 in 2005. The model also predicts that each year for the next 5 years, population P increases by 4% of the previous population. So that's basically a population increase model. So the starting amount is 15,000, and then we're going to do 1 plus the percent. So in this case, it's 4 over 100, raised to the number of times we multiply it. So in this case, since it's decreasing every year, n would be the number of years. So which of the following best matches it? Well, A does not have the right initial condition. B, they switch the numbers around. C, that would be a 4% decrease per year because it would be 1 minus 0.04. And then D is the right answer because it has the right initial population and 1 plus 4%. Question number 8. Which of the following equations is the most appropriate linear model for the data shown? Well, in that case, I notice that it has a y-intercept of 10. So it can't be the negative 10 y-intercept. And so that eliminates A and C. I also could calculate the slope. I notice the slope is going downward. So the slope must be negative. So we can eliminate all the answers with a positive slope, which leaves us only one correct answer, B. Question number 9. A model predicts the population of Bergen was 15,000 in 2005. The model also predicts that each year for the next 5 years, population P increases by 4% of the previous population. So that's basically a population increase model. So the starting amount is 15,000, and then we're going to do 1 plus the percent. So in this case, it's 4 over 100, raised to the number of times we multiply it. So in this case, since it's decreasing every year, n would be the number of years. So which of the following best matches it? Well, A does not have the right initial condition. B, they switch the numbers around. C, that would be a 4% decrease per year because it would be 1 minus 0.04. And then D is the right answer because it has the right initial population and 1 plus 4%. Number 10. The solution to the given system of equations is A comma B. So this is kind of confusing, but that's just your normal x comma y. So in this case, we're just solving for the y variable or solving for B. Now you can plug this into Desmos and write 2x plus 8y is equal to 198 and 2x plus 4y is equal to 98. But a much faster way is just subtract the two equations. And when you do that, you get 4b is equal to 100. Divide both sides by 4, and b is equal to 25. So definitely you can use Desmos, but you might find it easier sometimes to solve it like that. Again, as we get to the later questions, they can get harder and you may need more help from Desmos. Question number 11. The expression 90y to the fifth minus 54y to the fourth is equivalent to blank, where r is constant. What's the value of r? So what I need to do is I need to factor out y to the fourth because we need to play the matching game. Instead of that, I could also multiply these two out. So whatever you find helpful, you should try. But I'm going to factor out y to the fourth. And that leaves me with 90y to the 1 minus 54. Well, I need to get the 54 down to a 9. So I remember that 54 divided by 9 is 6. So if I take out a 6, I would get 15y minus 9, which now matches up. And so then the r must be equal to 6. All right, so we're pretty halfway. So definitely the questions I expect to get a little bit harder. Question number 12. The graph of y equals fx is shown where f is defined by some polynomial. So it looks cubic. Because it's cubic, it has zeros here, here, and here. It also is going downward. So I know that the leading coefficient, L, must be negative. All right, let's see what we can do. L, M, and R are constant. So even though like it says x minus m, M could be 7, it could be -4, it could be, I'm sorry, +4, it could also be -1 to make it true. For how many values of x is f(x) equal 2? Well, f of x equals 2 is actually a horizontal line. And if we draw a horizontal line from y equals 2, what we do is we hit the graph 1, 2, 3 times. So because since we hit the graph 3 times, there are then 3 values of x where this is true. Which is why the answer is C. So definitely it's a pretty quick question, even though it seems very complicated with all those letters in there. Question number 13. The given equation relates the distinct positive numbers, p, k, and j, which equation correctly expresses 4j plus 9 in terms of p and k. Well, what I kind of want to do is solve for 4j plus 9, but I notice that's right in the question. So I'm going to pretend that 4j plus 9 is equal to some letter, like u. And so that means really I have p is equal to k over u. Well, in order to get u by itself, I can flip the fractions on both sides, or I can cross multiply. So if I multiply, I get u, p is equal to k, and then to solve for u, I have to divide both sides by p. So then the answer is just simply k over p, which is A. Sphere A has a diameter of 3n, and sphere B has a diameter of 120n. Okay, so definitely very big numbers here. Also, it says diameter, and it says n is a positive constant. The surface area of sphere B is what % greater than the surface area of sphere B? Okay, so this question seems very challenging, and we definitely do have on our reference sheet, we have the volume of a sphere here. However, we do not have the volume of a surface area. So you could definitely, I recommend you memorize it just so it can help you out in the future. But there's probably a better way of solving this problem. And the answer is there is. Because all spheres and circles are similar, we can use something called the ratio rules to solve this problem. So I'm going to do length, perimeter, area, volume. In this case, we have sphere A, the sphere B, and they gave us some length called the diameter. So we can use diameter or radius. And so that's 3n to 120n. Okay, and then we're looking to go to the surface area. Well, one thing I know about surface area is it's going to be the scale factor squared. Now, I might want to simplify this first, so I'm going to divide both sides by 3n. That's 1 to 40. Now, to go to the scale factor, I'm going to square both of them. So it's going to be 1 squared to 40 squared, or 1 to 1600. All right, so we're almost done. But it said what % greater is that? And so you may be tempted to pick B or D because that's the numbers that you see here, but we're doing % greater, it's the % increase problem. So we're going to start with our formula. So it's going to be 1 plus P increase over 100 times the starting number, 1, and it's equal to 1600. So we divide both sides by 1, and we get 1 plus % increase over 100 is equal to 1,599. Oops, went a little bit too fast, 1600. So subtract 1 from both sides, and the % increase over 100 is equal to 1,599. And now in order to make it to %, you multiply both sides by 100. So this A is very tempting to pick because that's the number you see here, but in order to make it into a %, we have to times it by 100, and that's why the final answer is C. So definitely a very tricky question, but knowing this ratio rules box is very helpful for any time you're working with similar shapes. So triangles, squares, circles, spheres, cubes, etc. Question 15. The given equation has variables x and y. For what value of x does the y value reach its minimum? So I can graph this very quickly on Desmos. So I'm going to show that to you. Y equals x squared minus 14x plus 22. I'll bring it to the center of the screen. Might need to zoom out, but right there, that's the minimum. So we have 7, -27. Perfect. So the y value is -27, but the x value, which is what we're solving for, is 7. Now, a very quick way of getting the x value of the vertex is to do negative b over 2a. So negative of the -14 over 2 times 1, which also gives us 7. So something else to keep in mind whenever you're trying to find the x value of the vertex of the parabola, you can do negative b over 2a. But if you were looking for the y value, plug it back in and then solve for the y value. Question number 16. A small business owner budgets $2,200 to purchase candles. Well, generally speaking, when there's a budget involved, there's usually going to be an inequality. The owner must purchase a minimum of 200 candles to maintain the discounted pricing. All right, so let's see what our variables are. If the owner pays $4.90 per candle to purchase the small candles and $11.60 per candle to purchase the large candles. All right, so we need then small and large. So then I imagine we have a price where it's 4.90 times the small plus 11.60 times the large. That must be less than or equal to the budget. Now, they must purchase a minimum 200. So that means the small plus the large must be greater than or equal to 200. What is the maximum number of large candles? So we want to find the max amount of large, so they can stay within the budget and maintain the pricing. So, all right. So a very good way of solving these problems is to actually use Desmos to do a system of graphing. So now instead of using S and L, I'm going to use X and Y. So X is my small and Y is my large. So 4.90X plus 11.60Y is less than, then you write the equal sign, 220. Next, X plus Y is then greater than sign equals to 200. Now, at first glance, you don't see anything, but this is a big budget, and so there's a lot of candles. And what we're looking for is the place where they intersect. Now, we said X was the small, Y was the large. And because it's a system of inequalities, we want to find out where they're overlapping. So it's this kind of triangle region. And we can't have a fraction of candles. So what is the largest number of maximum candles we can buy? So can we get 183? Well, no, because that'd be outside the triangle. So the biggest we can get is actually 182. And if you're not sure, we can graph it. So I'm going to do 18, 182. We're going to label that. And we want to make sure that that point is inside of the shaded region or on the line. So right there, that looks pretty good. And so that's why the answer was 182. All right, next one. Question number 17. We have another system of inequalities, which point X and Y is a solution to a given system inequality. So from here, you can plug in points and check them if that's faster for you. You can also graph them and see which points match on their. Do I see any quick ones that I can eliminate? So for example, if I look at the first one, is 0 less than or equal to negative 14 plus 7. No, 0 is more than negative 7. So because it didn't work for one of them, we can cross it off. Is negative 14 less than or equal to 7? That's true, so it works for the first one. Is 14 less than or equal to 0 plus 7? No, we can cross C. And then lastly, D is 0 less than or equal to 14 plus 7. Yep. So now we've checked the first one, now we go on to the second one. All right, so is negative 14 greater than or equal to 0 minus 1? And that is not true. Negative 14 is less than negative 1. So then we've crossed off B, and we're left with D as the final correct answer. Question 18. We have a frequency table provided. Frequency table summarizes the weight, times the nearest pound of 71 tortoises. The weight of 39 pounds is added to the original data set. Create a new data set, run to the nearest pound of 72 tortoises. But what's to say? That compares the mean and median. So what we're adding is we're taking a very large tortoise and adding it to, so what I imagine is the mean will increase because the overall sum has increased. If instead that they added a tortoise with the weight of 1 pound, then that would decrease the mean. So we should be looking for the mean goes up. Now, what about the median? Well, the median could increase, but it could also stay the same. But we can cross off the answers that don't have the mean increases. So A has the mean increases, B has the mean increases, C says it's less than, so we can cross off C, and D also is less than. So it has to be either A or B. So how can we find the median quickly? Well, a very useful trick is in the beginning, there are 71 tortoises. So what you can do is you can cross off the smallest amount with the smallest amount. So there are 12, 13, so I can cross off that with the 7 here. There are 5 left over. I can cross off the 5 with the 13, which means there's 8 left over. Then these two cross off. Then we're going to cross off the 5 with 10. There are 5 left over. We cross off the 5 with the 7. There's 2 left over. We cross off the 2 with the 9. There's 7 left over. So then the weight must be 17. And because I see there's 7 here, if we add one more, it would just go down to 6, which tells us that the new median would also be 17. Now, if you don't like the whole crossing off from each region, you think it takes too long, you can instead use this rule. The median term, not the value, but the term itself, is equal to the number of items plus 1 over 2. So in the beginning, there were 71 tortoises. So 71 plus 1 over 2 is 36. So instead of counting, what I could have done is basically count to 36 from either side. So this is 12, 20, 25, 32. All right, so this is 33 to 41, which includes the 36. And so that one is another way to determine the answer, which is why it is B. All right, question number 19. X minus 29 is equal to x minus a times x minus 29. We're applying our solutions to the given equation where a is a constant and a is greater than 30. All right, so one thing I noticed right away is that these look the same. Now, you may want to be tempted to divide both sides by x minus 29, but that would be a mistake. You'd remove an answer. So instead, you want to set it equal to 0. So 0 is equal to x minus a times x minus 29 minus x minus 29. Now, from here, you'd want to factor out the x minus 29. So then we're left with x minus 29, parentheses, x minus a minus 1. Because there's a 1 here, it's a minus 1 there. And now we see two answers. So one answer is when x is equal to 29. The other one's a little bit trickier, so let's work it out. X minus a minus 1 is equal to 0. So then x is equal to a plus 1. And that's why the answer was 2 and 29. Now, if you just plugged in a into the answer choices, you would have gotten 0 on the right-hand side and a minus 29 on the right-hand side. So that's another way you could have eliminated Roman numeral 1. Okay, now we have the answer C. We got a few more to go. Question number 20. In the xy plane, the graph of the equation y equals negative x squared plus 9x minus 100 intersects the line y equals c at exactly 1 point. What is the value of c? So there's a couple ways of interpreting this question, but essentially what we're looking for is one solution to the system of equations. So let's first set them equal to each other. Negative x squared plus 9x minus 100. Then we set it equal to 0 because it's a quadratic. Now you may want to multiply everything by negative, make things less negative, but it doesn't matter. Desmos won't have a problem with it, but I'm going to do it just to make it look easier to me. So I'm multiplying everything by a negative 1 just to make the things more positive. All right, but because it's exactly 1 point, I'm going to do a discriminant test. So specifically, I'm using the part of the quadratic formula known as b squared minus 4ac. I will set it equal to 0 because there's only one solution. So from here, b is negative 9. So negative 9 squared minus 4 times the a value, which is now positive 1. And the c value is not c, but 100 plus c. And that's how they try to trick you by reusing the same letters. From here, we solve. So then we're going to get 100 plus c is equal to negative 81 over negative 4. All right, and we're solving for c. So c is equal to negative 100 plus 81 over 4. All right, so you can probably eliminate b real quickly. But how do we find the common denominator? And you can use your calculator, but we can find a common denominator by multiplying the top and bottom by 4. So negative 400 plus 81 all over 4. And then the answer that might start screaming out to you is C, and C is the correct answer. All right. Functions f and g are defined by the given equations where x is greater than 0, which defining equation displays as a constant or coefficient the maximum value of the function defined when x is greater than 0. So both of these graphs do not have a set maximum, but because we're doing this restricted domain, they would have a maximum on the graph. So if you got tricked by this because you thought you were just looking at these type of graphs, you went straight to D, I understand, but make sure to look for any extra information in the question. So in this case, we're going to go to Desmos and graph them to help see it. So if you have a graph that's already there, you can delete it. Well, let's do the first one. F of x is equal to 18 parentheses 1.25 parentheses exponent by pressing the caret button, and then plus 41. And then we are looking for x is greater than 0. So I'm going to go to home screen, and then I'm going to set the wrench to x is greater than 0. All right, perfect, perfect. And right now, I don't really see any maximum. In fact, what I see is a minimum at the top here. So there is no maximum on the right-hand side. It goes up forever, but there is a minimum at the point of 0,59. So we can eliminate a Roman numeral 1. All right, let's check g of x. G of x is equal to 9 times 0.073. And the key thing about this type of graph is it's an exponential decay model. And so now here x is greater than or equal to 0. We do have a maximum value of 9 here. So, and there is no minimum. Even though it looks like it's hit the x-axis, it gets very, very close, but never touches it. So that's why the answer was B for this question. So kind of tricky, but definitely knowing your graphs and models can help you see it. And also make sure you read all of the words. Don't just assume you know what the question is. All right, the last question for module 1, question 22. The perimeter of an equilateral triangle is 852. So perimeter of an equilateral triangle is 3 times s. So we set that equal to 852. And then the calculator tells us that 852 divided by 3 is 284. All right, what else do we need to know? The 3 vertices lie in a circle. All right, so let's draw a circle. And then we're going to draw a triangle. And it's inscribed. So I'm just going to roughly get an idea. Okay. And we now know that all the angles are 60 degrees because it's an equilateral triangle. And we know that the length is 284. The radius of the circle is w root 3. All right, and we're now solving for w. So this is where a lot of people get stuck. Now you can draw the radius anywhere like that, but that's not particularly helpful because it doesn't go where the shapes intersect. What you want to draw is draw the radius where it hits the vertices. Like that would be a great place. This would be a great place, as well as this place. Now, one thing you might be guessing is that, hey, these angles split the circle into thirds, which is 120, 120, 120. Also, it splits the triangle in the angles in half. So now it's 30 and 30. Also, since it's the radius here, radius are congruent. So what we have is a triangle with this is the radius, and then this side here is 284. And we know that this angle is 120 and this is 30. So one thing you might be thinking about is your 30-69 triangle. So if we split it in half one more time, the 284 turns into 142. And now we have a 60 degree there and a 90 there. And then we can follow our 30-60-90 ratios. So that's going to be x root 3, and 2x. Now our goal was to find w. So The radius in this case is W root 3. So W root 3 is equal to the 2x here. All right, and we know that 142 is equal to x root 3. So how can we put this all together and solve for W? Well, one thing I can do is I can multiply both sides here by 2, and I get 284 is equal to 2x root 3. And I can divide both sides by root 3 to get 2x. And then we play the matching game. W root 3 is equal to 284 over root 3. And because we're solving for W, we then need to divide both sides by root 3. Oh, that's convenient. We get 284 over 3. I'm going to write that back up here. All right, so what's 284 divided by 3? Well, you could know your mental math skills and plug it in very quickly, or you can just use Desmos, whatever you'd like. So I'll take the 284 we had earlier and divide it by 3, and we get 94.66. All right. Oh, wait, we could try the fraction. Ah, that's way easier. So the decimal was definitely 94.666. And you would definitely need to write 94.66 or 94.67 to get the right answer. So better yet, just leave it as a fraction. It looks like a beautiful fraction. All right, that does it for this section. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Hello, welcome to Math Module 2. Let's start with question number 1. Question 1. A bus is traveling at a constant speed along a straight portion of the road. The equation d equals 30t gives the distance d in feet to the road marker. The bus will be t seconds after passing the first marker. How many feet the bus be 2 seconds after passing the marker? So we have the time, we have the rate of 30, and then the distance is going to be 60 feet. So the answer is C. For a particular machine that produces beads, 29 out of 100 beads is produced to have a defect. So 29 would have a defect, 71 out of 100 would not have a defect. A bead produced by the machine will be selected at random. What is the probability that the bead has a defect? Well, 29 out of 100. So C is the answer. For a certain region, the table shows the average number of store employees in 2016 by type of store. Based on the table, how much greater was the average number of store employees in the warehouse versus the supermarket? So warehouse versus supermarket. So 365 minus 130. That would be about 235. And so C is the right answer. All right, we have a geometry problem here. So in the figure, line M is parallel to line N, so you might want to think about angle parallel lines relationship rules, and T intersects it. Perfect. What's the value of X? Well, I know that 33 goes opposite here because of opposite or vertical angles. And I know 33 will go here because of either corresponding angles or alternate interior angles. But either way, we can get X by doing 180 is equal to X plus 33, or X is equal to 147. The answer is D. Sean rents a tent at a cost of $11 per day. Let's say one-time insurance fee of $10, which equation represents the total cost in dollars to rent the tent with insurance for D days. So these problems are pretty common on the SAT. And so you may find it helpful to like make a table if you get confused by these type of problems. But if Sean has 0 days, he still has to pay the insurance fee of $10. If he does 1 day, it's 11 for the first day plus the insurance. 2 days, 11 times 2 plus the 10. And we can kind of see the linear model now. So it's not 10 times the number of days, it should be 11. And then we can kind of think about what if we plug in 1 for D, which one makes most sense? Well, if I plug in 1 for D here, I would get cost is equal to 11 plus 10, which matches my model. So the answer is C. The function g is defined by g of x equals 6x. What value of x is g of x equal to 54? So we substitute 54 in for g of x. And then we solve for x, and x is equal to 9. All right, question number 7. The function f is defined by ax cubed plus 4. This is what's the value of f2. So instead of plugging in 2 for fx, you plug in 2 for every x. So f of 2 is equal to 8 times 2 cubed plus 4. So that's 64 plus 4, which is 68. A producer is creating a video with length 70 minutes. The video will consist of a segment that are 1 minute long and segments that are 3 minutes long. So it sounds like a system of equations potentially, or we need to figure out our variables. X represents the number of 1 minute, Y represents the number of 3 minutes. Okay, so we know that X times 1 plus 3 times Y, and that will equal the total number of minutes. So A looks like they just added the letters together, which we can't do. This one is 4 times X and 4 times Y, which we want 1 times X, 3 times Y. This has it mixed up. C, D is the right answer. It looks exactly like we want it to. Number 9, we have a system of equations here, so we can use Desmos to graph it. We're looking for the value for X, so I'm going to get rid of the Y variable by substitution. You usually want to use substitution if you have one of the variables isolated. And we get X is equal to 15, and there you go. The answer is C. Question number 10. The area in square centimeters of a rectangular cutting board can be represented by the expression W times W plus 9, where W is the width. So we have a cutting board. This is W, this is W plus 9. Which of the expressions represents the length in the centimeters of the cutting board? Well, we know that this is the width, so the other one must be the length, because area is equal to length times width. And so the answer is D. Question 11. X over Y equals 4, then 0.4x over ny is equal to 4. What's the value of n? So this is trying to be complicated and try to over confuse you, but what you want to do is kind of break it apart. Let's rewrite this fraction as 24 over n times x over y is equal to 4. And now we have x over y is equal to 4, we can do a substitution. Now we're solving for n, so let's start separating it apart. So 24 times 4 is equal to 4n. And then we divide both sides by 4 to get the n by itself, and we're left with n is equal to 24. Another way you can reason it is that if x over y equals 4 and 24x over ny is equal to 4, that means 24 over n must be equal to 1. So n is 24. Question number 12. The bowl contains 20 ounces of water. When the bowl is uncovered, the amount of water in the bowl decreases by 1 ounce every 4 days. Okay, so that sounds like a rate of change. If 9 ounces of water remain in the bowl, how many days was it uncovered? So then we have ounces of water is equal to 20 minus 1 every 4 days. So 9 is equal to 20 minus 1/4 of D. Negative 11 is equal to negative 1/4 of D. Multiply both sides by negative 4. We get 44 is equal to D, or 44 days. The answer is C. D. I think I said C, but D is the right answer. Question 13. If 9 times 4 minus 3x plus 2 is equal to 8 times 4 minus 3x plus 18, what's the value of 4 minus 3x? So you could definitely multiply this all out and solve for x and then plug it back in, but a much easier way is make a substitution. So 4 minus 3x is equal to, let's say D for David. Then it's really 9D plus 2 is equal to 8D plus 18. And from here, we're then solving for D. So if I subtract the 18 and subtract the 2, we're left with D is equal to 16. And we get the answer right away. So if you see problems like this, especially in the beginning where they look more complicated, you can use something called structure and expression, which is what this type of question is, and then solve it much more rapidly. The expression, the fourth root of 2304, so fourth root of 2304 can be rewritten as A root B times C, where A, B, and C represent positive integer constants. So we can't have A be 0, and it can't have it be a fraction or decimal. What is the smallest sum? Okay, so for example, we'll just write the top. A could be 1, B could be 4, C could be 2304. So that'd be just like copying what we see right away. So let's see if we can get small on that. Well, one thing I'm thinking about is one of the skills you're supposed to learn is to simplify radicals. So what I might want to do is start prime factorizing 2304. What numbers go into it? And you might not know exactly what prime factors go into it. So let's say it looks like it's even, so we can divide by 2. Okay, and then we can divide that by 2. So I'm gonna put another 2 down here. So, okay, that's even, so we can put another 2 down there. Okay, that's even, so we can put another 2 down there. Oh, and then 144 is 12 times 12. So let's write down what we have so far. 2304 is the same thing as 2 to the 4th times 12 squared. So that's 144. Okay, well, it is the 4th root. So like hypothetically, I could rewrite this as the 4th root like that, 4th root like that. So then one of the 2's will come out, and we would have the 4th root of 12 squared. So now A would be 2, B would still be 4, and C is equal to 144, 12 squared. So that is a better answer than we had before. Well, can we go further? Well, one thing I noticed is that this is a 4 and a 2, and I think those go in together. So something to remind yourself is that if you have the 4th root of something, you could rewrite it as 12 squares raised to the 1/4 power, which means that this is 12 to the 1/2, or square root 12. So then we could take this and keep A being 2, and then write B as 2, and C would be 12. Does that kind of make sense? All right, so now the sum is going to be a total of 16. Can we do anything more? Well, it is the square root of 12, which can be written as 2 root 3. So if we do that, then it would be 2 times 2 times the square root of 3. That would be A is 4, B is still 2, and C is 3. So it looks like this looks like the smallest numbers. So it would be 5 plus 4 is 9, which is smaller than 16. So definitely a very, very challenging question. It also wasn't multiple choice. You couldn't use your answer choices to guide you. But whenever you're working with radicals, you definitely want to reduce them. And we also wanted to play the matching game of try and match, like, what should the power be? What would the inside be? Okay. All right. See you in the next one.
Question 15. So for question 15, we have a circle with center O and points R and T line the circle. Point S is external to the circle, such that it forms tangent lines to the circle O at points R and T, and the distance from O to S is twice raised. All right, there's a lot going on there. So let's start breaking it apart. First off, we have a circle, and we have 2 points on the circle, R and T. I don't know where, but I'm going to say R is here and T is here. And we have S somewhere out here. Now, the key thing is, if it's external to the circle, these 2 lines are going to be equal to each other because they go to the same point. Also, because it's a tangent, it's going to make a right angle to the center. So that right there will be helpful for us later. All right, this is S and this is O. What are we solving for? What is the measure of angle RST? Well, let's start filling in some more details. It mentioned that the distance from O to S was 2 times the radius. So that's 2R. But O to R and O to T is also 1 radius. Well, I don't know how to get the whole angle, but I can get this angle here because I can do, use this, the trig function sine to get the angle because we have the opposite side and the hypotenuse. So let's set it up. Sine of x is equal to the opposite of hypotenuse, which is then equal to r over 2r, which is 1/2. And then you might go like, wait a minute, sine of x equal 1/2. I know that. And you should for your lesson on unit circles. And also looking at the reference sheet. When you have a ratio of 1 to 2, that suggests it's a 3690 triangle and the base angle is 30 degrees. So you could also use a calculator and do sine inverse as well, if that is better for you. So x is equal to the sine inverse of 1/2. And we get 30 degrees, which means that this is 30, 90, and 60, 60, 60, 30. Well, the question did not ask for RSO, it asked for RST. So we actually have to double it to get the final answer. So RST is equal to 30 plus 30, which is 60 degrees. And that's why the answer is 60. So if you got 30, you were very, very close. So just always make sure you know your letters and keep track of what you're actually solving for. And drawing a picture for these problems, especially when there's no picture given, is very key to success. All right, let's go on to the next one.
A regular price shirt at a store is $11.70. The sale price of the shirt is 80% less than the regular price. Okay, so basically I need to do 20% of 11.70 to get the sales price, which I can calculate once I get my calculator out. The sale price is 30% greater than the store's cost. So again, whenever doing percent increase, it's 1 plus the percent. So 1.30 times the sale price is equal to the cost of the shirt for the store. What was the store's cost in dollars for the shirt? Okay, so it looks like we're gonna find the sale price and then plug it on in, and then we get the cost for the store. So let's open up Desmos. All right, and we're gonna do 0.2 times 11.70, which is 2.34. And I can write that down, but we just need to times that by 1.3. I'm gonna times that by 1.3 while I have it open. And then we're left with $3.042. So 3.042 cents. So what should we do in this case when we have a decimal for the dollars, right? It's like, well, one thing is like they told us not to worry about the sign. Oh, actually, Reed, there might be a actually, Reed, I'm sorry, there might be a typo here. What is the typo? Oh, that's right, Reed. I have to reshoot number 16. Okay, so all right, question 16. Oh, question 16, take two. All right, the regular price of a shirt at a store is 11.70. The sale price of a shirt is 80% less than the regular price. So 80% less than it means you do 1 minus the percent. So we're going to get 0.2 times the regular price is equal to the sale price. And we can calculate that in a moment. The sale price is 30% greater than the store's cost. So then whenever it's percent greater than, it's 1 plus the percent. So 1 plus 30% times the store's cost, and that is equal to the sale price. Now, I could find the sale price, plug it in here, and then divide, but let's put it all together. So the sale price is going to be 0.2 times 11.70. But in order to get the cost, we're going to take that sale price and divide it by 1.3, which is $1.8. So $1.8 would be, well, just 1.8 for our answer. I guess you could try typing it as a fraction, but it makes more sense to me to write it as a dollars because that's how we typically talk about dollars and money. So $1.80. Yeah, because it says in dollars, so we don't have to round it to the zero for the cent. Question number 17. A cube has an edge length of 38 inches. A solid cylinder is positioned inside the cube such that each circular base of the cylinder lies flush against a pair of opposite faces of the cube, and that each face is tangent to the centers of the 4 adjacent lateral faces. Okay, there's a lot going on there. To the nearest cubic inch, what is the volume of the portion cube that is not occupied by the cylinder? All right, let's try drawing a picture. So let's try drawing a cube. I might need to draw it manually. So let's draw a cube. There, there, there. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's draw the cylinder. Now, a cylinder basically has circles, but we want to draw kind of like an ellipse because it's going to be at an angle for perception. I'm going to try and draw my best, but definitely feel free to try it on your own paper. I think that's okay. And then we're going to draw the cylinder inside, so it goes down like that, down to the base. And then we have another base circle down there. So something like this. something like that. All right, but it said, again, some very important information. Pan back. We knew that the total length is 38, 38, 38, since it's a cube. So the height of the cylinder is also 38. But in order to find the volume of the cylinder, we need to find the radius. And so that is what this part, like talking about how it's flush, again, it's tangent to the centers of the four adjacent lateral faces. So that means that this is touching from the left side to the right side. So that means the diameter is equal to 38, which is 2 times the radius. So the radius is going to be 19. Let's put it all together. Volume of the cube is s cubed. So that's going to be 38 cubed minus the volume of the cylinder, which is going to be pi r squared h. So it's going to be pi times not 38, but 19 squared times 38, which is the height. And then it looks like we have to find the actual decimal value of it. Let's plug it all into Desmos. So we have 38 to the power of 3 minus pi for pi times 19 to the power of 2 times 38. And it looks like we got 11,775, which is A. Perfect. So I hope that made more sense. Again, these problems, the geometry questions without the visualization is very challenging. So definitely you will want to draw a picture on your scratch paper. So, all right, let's go to the next one. Question 18. Y equals 6x plus 18. One of the equation system linear equations is given. The system has no solution, which means that these lines are parallel. Well, I see right away that the m of that line is 6, but these don't have it. So what you could do is make them all look the same. But a fast way is also just doing the slope is negative a over b. So in the case of the first one, it'd be negative 6 over 1, which is the right answer. So we're done. It is A, looks like. Or actually, that's interesting. B also has the same kind of slope. Weird. So we can't have two correct answers. Now we can eliminate C and D because those have a slope of 12. So what's going on here? Well, let's go back to Desmos. So we have the original line, y equals 6x plus 18, and that's going to be in green. All right, and now let's do the second one. Negative 6x plus y is equal to 18. Oh, so although A had the right slope, it has infinitely many solutions, not no solutions. So if we change it to 22 now, that gives us a pair of lines. So very tricky. Again, if they're at the end, they know you're rushing, right? We have only 12 minutes left in this case, right? So we're trying to get through as many as we can. So they know you're looking for shortcuts. So make sure to investigate your answer choices to verify. Especially when you get to heart. If you get something quickly done, double check all the answers. Make sure there's nothing else. Question 19. The triangles PQR and LMN are graphed in the XY plane. Triangle PQR has vertices PQR at 4, 5, 4, 7, 6, 5. All right, so I'm going to graph this on Desmos. So delete, delete, delete. So we have 4, 5, and we have 4, 7, and we have 6, 5. Perfect. And we can turn on the labels. We can turn off the labels. I'm going to turn them on so we can see them. Okay, perfect. Looks like a right triangle to me. But let's keep investigating. The next triangle is also kind of at the same points, 4, 5. So 4, 5. And then something weird, 4, k plus 7. And 6 plus k, 5. Pull this up so we can actually see it better. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. And we have like these value k value right now, so we can kind of make it bigger or smaller if we want to. Um, let's keep going. Right. Let's actually make the black one be green, and then this red one be black. There you go. So we're looking at the purple and black. We can also label them too. So N is this one. And then this one is going to be, I think, M. So if we want to see the letters themselves. Okay, moving on. If the measure of angle Q is T, what is the measure of angle N? All right, well, where is Q? Q was 4,7. So if we drew a line connecting it, right, we have a random angle T. And I technically drew that line a little bit too big. Let's make it a little bit smaller. There we go, to the blue for the small triangle. But it looks like a right triangle to me. And it is, because the slopes are perpendicular, so we can confirm it is a right triangle. Which means that the other angle must be 90 minus t. All right, but what is the goal of the question? The question was asking for what is the measure of angle n? Well, because these triangles are similar, angle n must have the same angle as r. So 90 minus t is the answer we're looking for. Oh, so C. So what about these other numbers? Well, those k values don't actually change anything because it's just making the triangle larger. So it still would be the same angles. So very tricky question, but also hopefully that makes more sense to you. All right, I've got 3 questions left in 8 minutes, which is pretty good timing. A paleontologist is analyzing fossilized tracks and estimates the velociraptor could reach a speed of 17 meters per second in just 3 seconds from rest. That's pretty fast. He wants to express the average acceleration in miles per hour squared. Okay, so speed is meters per second, but we want miles over hours squared. So I think we have to take the speed and divide it by time. Oh, average acceleration is calculated by finding the change in speed and dividing it by the time interval. Perfect. Okay, so what we could do is do it the problem in meters and seconds. So that's going to be 17 meters per second divided by 3 seconds, which gives me 17 thirds meters per second squared. But they wanted it in miles per hour squared. So let's go on to the conversion. To go from meters to miles, there are 1,609 meters in 1 mile. So because I have meters on top, I put meters on the bottom, and I put 1 mile on top. Next, we have to convert for the time. You could do seconds to minutes and then minutes to hours, but I know that for every hour, there are 3,600 seconds, otherwise known as 60 squared. But that would only cancel out one of the seconds. So because the units are squared, we need to square that conversion. So let's put it all in the calculator. So 17 over 3 times 3,000. I guess I could do 1 divided by 1609. Cool. And then times 3,600 squared. Wow. So big, big number. So 45,000. So it doesn't match exactly, but we're looking for the best estimate. So we don't need to match exactly. Perfect. And again, if you got these other answers, you probably forgot about the conversion to a second squared, or you only did 1 second. Keep an eye on that for the future. All right, 2 left to go. In the given equation, C is a positive constant. Which of the following is one of the solutions to the given equation? So we're looking for a solution, and we're not solving for C, we're solving for X. So it's something to remember. All right, well, one thing I noticed is that these have a common denominator, so I'm going to subtract them. That's equal to 39. So what can I do next from here? Well, I kind of want to multiply this or square this both sides to get rid of the radicals. But we could also do cross elimination to kind of eliminate answers that can't be. So for example, it cannot be negative C or positive C because that would make the denominator 0. And we can never divide by 0. Let's square both sides. So then x squared minus c squared over x squared minus c squared is equal to 39 squared. Oh, well, then I see that one of these cancels with this, and we're left with x squared minus c squared is equal to 39 squared. Well, we're solving for x, so then x squared is equal to 39 squared plus c squared, and that means x could be plus or minus square root 39 squared plus c squared. Now, it is tempting to distribute the radical to each term, but you cannot do that with pluses and minus signs, only with multiplication and division. So this is our final answer. So this one has 39 squared minus c, which we want plus c, and this one has c squared plus 39 squared. That's why D was the correct answer. Question 22, the final question in Math Module 2. All right, if you made it this far, congrats. Let's go. The quadratic function g models the depth in meters below the surface of water of a seal t minutes after the seal entered the water during a dive. The function estimates that the seal reached a maximum depth of 302.8 meters 6 minutes after it entered the water, and then reached the surface of the water 12 minutes after it entered the water. Based on the function, what was the estimated depth of the nearest meter of the seal 10 minutes after it entered the water? Okay. So there's a lot going on here. Let's draw a time graph. Now we know if we set this to be the 0 or the surface, at 12 minutes, it hits the water surface. And at 6 minutes, which is halfway, it has a maximum depth of 302.4. And by the way, this 12 minutes is not 12 minutes after it reaches maximum, it's 12 minutes after it enters the water. All right, so let's go through. So we can draw a parabola. Oh, it's gonna go curling down, and go back, and then go up. Now, we don't know that this point is at 0, 0, but because of parabolas and their symmetry, since this is 6 away, this must also be 6 away. And the question is, what is the depth? 10 minutes. So about closer to 12, right? So maybe 150. We don't know. Let's find out. So what can we do? Well, what we could do is we could do a factoring approach. So using the fact that we have 2 zeros, we could do that the height is equal to a times x minus 0 and x minus 12. And then we could plug in the vertex to find the a value. Alternatively, you can say you have the vertex and do x minus 6 squared plus 302.4, and then plug in the 0 to find the a value. All right, so either of those will work. Let's say we plugged in 12, 0, and we got 0 is equal to a times 12 minus 6 squared plus 302.4. And then we get 0 is equal to 36a plus 302.4. And then a is equal to negative 302.4 divided by 36. All right, that looks pretty good. Oh, sorry. It should not be positive 302.4. It should be negative since it went below. So negative, negative, positive here. And that makes sense because this graph looks like a positive parabola. So the a value has to be positive. All right, so now how can we find it at 10 minutes? Well, y equals 302.4 over 36. And then we plug in 10 minus 6 squared plus 3 minus 302.4. And what do we get on the calculator? Y equals, well, I guess we could just type it in as is, 302.4 divided by 36 times 4 squared minus 302.4. All right, negative 168. So that would be the depth, not the negative part. The depth itself is the positive value. All right, now instead of doing all that work, we could have set up a table. So table, and then we have the point 6 comma 3 negative 302.4. And then we have 12 comma 0. And then we know that it's a linear model. So y tilde a x1, y1, x1 squared plus bx1 plus c. And what you may notice is that we still need another point because there's only 2 points here. So we're going to do 0 comma 0, and then that makes it perfect. And then it also graphs it for us too. So we can see it way down here. And then if you wanted to define the 10 at 10, basically you do f of 10 is equal to, or f of x is equal to ax squared plus bx plus c, and then do f of 10, and then you get the negative 168. That way, instead of doing all the math, you can just plug in any points here. All right, and we beat the buzzer. So I hope that you found that helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.